Essential Understanding of Hematology. This movie is about blood and hematopoiesis. First, let's talk about blood. Hey, did you know roughly how much blood you have in your body? It's said to be about 1/13 of your body weight. So, if you weigh 40 kilograms, that's around 3 kilograms of blood. If you weigh 60 kilograms, it's about 4.6 kilograms. And if you weigh 90 kilograms, it's around 6.9 kilograms, and so on. Let's look at the component of blood. Hey, when they take your blood and spin it around in the machine thing, it kind of splits apart. The top part, the yellowish one, that's a plasma. And down below, that's where the blood cells hang out, all red and stuff. By the way, it's difficult to understand the difference between serum and plasma. Serum is the plasma from which fibrinogen has been removed. Plasma, it's got water, electrolytes, proteins, amino acids, coagulation factors, and antibodies. And then the blood cells, which have red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Hey, let's talk about what blood does in our bodies. Basically, blood has 3 main jobs. First of all, it helps transport stuff like oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and waste products. Red blood cells are the ones that carry oxygen. Secondly, blood helps keep things balanced, like body temperature, pH levels, and blood pressure. And lastly, blood helps us fight off infections. White blood cells are like our body's defense system against bacteria, viruses, and other foreign stuff. And when we got the cut or something, platelets and other stuff in our body work together to form a clot and stop the bleeding. Ever wondered why blood's red? How when we talk about the weight of blood components, it's like 96% red blood cells, 3% white blood cells, and 1% platelets. Most of it's made up of red blood cells. That's why blood looks red. Next, let's talk about hematopoiesis. Hey, have you ever wondered how our bodies make blood cells? It's this awesome process called hematopoiesis, like our own little blood cell factory. About blood? Well, it's got 3 main types of cells: white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets. It's like a whole team working together. Hematopoiesis takes place in the bone marrow. Bone is hard only on the outside. Inside the hard bone is relatively soft and is called the bone marrow. Hematopoiesis then takes place in the bone marrow. With age, the site of hematopoiesis changes. When we are talking about embryogenesis, blood cell production happens in places like the yolk sac, fetal liver, and early marrow. Once puberty hits, blood cell production goes down in the bone marrow all over your body. Once you're 18 or older, blood cell production is focused in specific spots like the vertebrae, ribs, sternum, skull, pelvis, and the end of your arm and leg bones. So, in grown-ups, hematopoiesis happens in the bone marrow, like in this picture. But as you get older, the blood-making tissue started to shrink, and it gets replaced by fat. By around 40, it's like half and half blood-making tissue and fat. And by 60, you are down to about 30% of what you had when you were younger. Let's understand how blood cells are actually produced. This is a microscopic magnified image of normal hematopoiesis. You can see the various blood cells being produced. In normal hematopoiesis, you've got leukocytes, erythrocytes, and platelets at different stages of growing up, from super young cells to fully mature ones. The diagram shows how blood cells developed and mature. Basically, all blood cells start as hematopoietic stem cells, where hematopoietic stem cells turn into a different type of cells like white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets. That's called differentiation. As these cells mature, their appearance changes. For example, a neutrophil, or white blood cell, goes from being a hematopoietic stem cell to myeloblast, then myelocyte, and finally become a segmented neutrophil. This process is called maturation, similar to how young people study at home or school before entering society as adults. Blood cells mature in the bone marrow and then move into a bloodstream when they are fully developed. Think of it like this. Blood cells differentiation and maturation are similar to a seed sprouting and branching out into leaves. So a hematopoietic stem cell is like that seed. It can grow into any kind of blood cell. Take-home message. Blood is super important for keeping us alive. It's made up blood cells and plasma. Hematopoiesis is the process of making blood cells, and it happens in the bone marrow. As we get older, our hematopoietic tissue decreases. Every single blood cell comes from hematopoietic stem cells.